speculation in the US media about Donald Trump's health, featuring a black patch on his hand that he's apparently trying to hide with makeup. Will Washington drop Canada from the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance? India can tell from experience that Canadian intel is dodgy. What are the new gold cards that Trump is introducing? Will they turn the American dream into an exclusive VIP lounge? How China is sabotaging critical undersea cables in the Taiwan Strait? Why Indian political leaders are berating Air India on social media? How the US is cutting aid to save costs, but has cleared, in fact, military aid to Pakistan for F-16 jets. And this comes days after Trump tried to sell F-35s to India. And what's the mystery disease linked to eating bats that has killed more than 50 people? All this and more coming up. The headlines first. Hamas to hand over bodies of 4 Israeli hostages tomorrow. They agree to do so without holding any public ceremony. So far, all hostage handovers have been a public spectacle. Israel has delayed releasing hundreds of Palestinian prisoners, insisting that Hamas halt these ceremonies. American and Russian diplomats will meet in Istanbul on Thursday. Since Donald Trump returned to the White House, ties between the two countries have improved significantly. On Monday, Washington sided with Moscow at the United Nations, refusing to criticize Russia's invasion of Ukraine 3 years ago. A Sudanese military plane crashes into a residential neighborhood, killing at least 46 people. The cause of the crash is still not clear. This comes a day after the paramilitary, which is at war with the army, shot down an aircraft. Chile returns to normalcy as power is restored in most homes. Earlier, a massive outage had left millions without electricity. It led to the president declaring a state of emergency and imposing a curfew, which has now been lifted. This was Chile's worst blackout in more than a decade. And some good news for South Korea. The number of births in the country rose last year for the first time since 2014. South Korea is battling a demographic crisis. It has one of the world's longest life expectancies and lowest birth rates.
I am defending Ukraine. I cannot sell our country.
If there's one thing Donald Trump likes, it is making deals, whether it is for a plot of land in New York or to settle wars in foreign lands. And he is all set to strike another one, this time with Ukraine. President Zelensky is expected to visit the White House on Friday. His mission? To sign a mineral deal with President Trump. We told you about this yesterday. Ukraine will share its mineral wealth with the United States. In return, they will get some sort of protection. That's the idea behind this deal. And the US president is quite thrilled about it.
Is it true that President Zelensky is coming on Friday to meet with you, and is the mineral deal sorted out?
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that he's coming on Friday. Certainly, it's okay with me if he'd like to, and he would like to sign it together with me, and I understand that's a big deal, very big deal. And I think the American people, even if you look at polling, they're very happy because, you know, Biden was throwing money around like it's cotton candy, and it's a very big deal. Look, it could be $1 trillion deal, it could be whatever, but it's rare earths and other things.
The idea was first pitched by Zelensky. He thought it would keep Trump interested in the war, but Trump took it too far. His initial proposal demanded $500 billion from Ukraine. Also, it gave no security guarantees. So Zelensky rejected it. He said he would not sell his country. Listen to this.
Although I say again that we are ready for a serious document, we need security guarantees. You need them. Investing, sharing, depending on the investment and the purpose of it. And if there's nothing clear there, I said, let's write percentages. That was my proposal. I am defending Ukraine. I cannot sell our country.
What changed then? Mainly two things. One, Trump ramped up the pressure. He called Zelensky a dictator. He also began dealing directly with Putin. This clearly spooked Zelensky. So he had to do something to appease the US president. That is the first thing. Trump unsettled Zelensky. Secondly, Trump also made some concessions. He has dropped some of his demands. For example, the first draft required Ukraine to pay $500 billion to America. That has been dropped. It also asked Ukraine to repay the double of any future aid. Say the US gives 100 million, then Kyiv had to repay 200 million later on. Again, that demand has been dropped. Instead, the latest draft is more equitable. And we mentioned this yesterday. Ukraine and the US will set up a joint fund. Kyiv will give up 50% of its mineral revenue to this fund. Basically, both sides get a cut. And what about security guarantees? None from the looks of it. The draft reportedly mentions Ukraine's sovereignty and freedom, but it does not offer explicit guarantees, nor does it commit to more aid. Both of these were key demands of Zelensky, and looks like both have been dropped. But Ukraine is not giving up. They say this agreement is preliminary. Kyiv is hoping Zelensky can sway Trump in person. If not, they may still reject the deal.
We are not considering signing any agreements without security guarantees. And, of course, today, after 2 weeks of intensive work between the governments of the United States and Ukraine on our economic cooperation, we have actually prepared a final version. After the President of Ukraine and the President of the United States agree on security guarantees, agree on how we tie this preliminary agreement to the security guarantee from the United States for our country, in the presence of both presidents, a representative of the Ukrainian government will sign this preliminary agreement.
It will be a tough mission for Zelensky because Trump is not looking for a political breakthrough. He just wants the money. Plus, he isn't just buying minerals from Ukraine. He wants to buy from Russia too.
I'd like to buy minerals on Russian land too, if we can. The rare earth. They have very good rare earth also. They both do. I would say that. And oil and gas. Look, it's a great thing. If we sell this, it's great for Russia too, because we can do deals there.
Think of it like this. Relations between Ukraine and the US are deteriorating. This deal will not cure that. What it can do is delay the slide, maybe buy Zelensky some more time. He's hoping his other allies will come together by then, and some, in fact, are coming through, like the UK. Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced a big decision yesterday. He is raising defence spending in the UK to almost 2.5% of the GDP.
So starting today, I can announce this government will begin the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the end of the Cold War. We will deliver our commitment to spend 2.5% of GDP on defence, but we will bring it forward so that we reach that level in 2027. And we will maintain that for the rest of this Parliament.
So the UK will spend more on defence, even more than NATO's 2% requirement. This has two main objectives. One is to appease President Trump because Starmer is visiting the White House tomorrow. So think of it as a pre-meeting gift. And secondly, to push for self-defence. Europeans are realising they cannot depend on the US anymore. They must make and deploy their own weapons. And it's not just the UK. This realization is spreading across the continent. The EU Council President wants to build a Europe of defence. Poland wants Cold War-era spending levels. Denmark is bumping up arms spending to 3% of its GDP. Even the incoming German Chancellor is hinting at more weapons. So the sentiment in Europe is clear. We need to be armed.
We are building the Europe of defence. And this must include, of course, our priorities. And priority is clear to protect our eastern border.
In short, we need a return to at least the level of defense spending that was incurred by NATO countries during the Cold War.
when Soviet imperialism was threatened at the time.
We must fundamentally increase our defense spending to at least 3% of GDP over the next few years. We must be able to secure this money, and we must ensure that it is spent wisely and effectively.
We are allocating $7 billion over the next 2 years with a message for the Chief of Defense. Buy.
Many leaders, same message. Europe needs to rearm. They scoffed at Trump's suggestions first, but now reality is kicking in. As of today, these are only announcements on paper. Let's see if Europe follows through. But if they do, we could be looking at a monumental realignment. A Europe that does not need America for protection, an America that does not care about Europe, and a Russia that spars with Europe but cuts deals with America. This is an unthinkable realignment. Of course, we are decades away from any of this. Perhaps Trump's isolationism will disappear with him, or perhaps it will become mainstream. We can only wait and watch.
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy. Chainsaw!
High IQ. Where's the money guy? Please tell us what you did last week.
What is Elon Musk's role in the US government? He's been called many things: the co-president, the first buddy, and a senior advisor to the president. But for the insiders, for those working in the US government, Elon Musk is like a chainsaw. One that Donald Trump is using to make deep cuts to the government. And Musk seems to be enjoying every moment of it. Just days ago, he made a public appearance holding an actual chainsaw. He vowed to dismantle bureaucracy. But his plans could get derailed. The US government is pushing back against Elon Musk. A rebellion of sorts is underway. There is an exodus from DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, the wrecking ball which Musk is using to dismantle US bureaucracy. 21 DOGE staffers have stepped down. These were all civil servants. They wrote a joint resignation letter, and we have some quotes from what they said. We swore to serve the American people and uphold our oath to the Constitution across presidential administrations. However, it has become clear that we can no longer honor those commitments. These civil servants have made a serious allegation. They say DOGE planned to, and I'm quoting, dismantle critical public services. They were given this task. They refused to do it. Instead, they resigned. Elon Musk has dismissed this story. He says that this is fake news, and he insists that these officials were Democratic supporters, that they would have been fired anyway. Now, it's easy for Musk to dismiss the civil servants. It is his word against theirs. But this is not an isolated incident. It is not just civil servants who are pushing back. Trump's own cabinet members are challenging Elon Musk. The likes of Kash Patel, the new FBI director, and Tulsi Gabbard, the National Intelligence Director. They have told their staff to ignore emails from DOGE. We've told you about the email. It came over the weekend to US government employees. The mail asked, "What did you do last week? Tell us about it. And if you do not respond, you will be fired." That's essentially what the email from Elon Musk said. Now, Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard have told their teams to not respond. There's pushback from other government departments too, like the US State Department, the Justice Department, Energy, Homeland Security, Defense. All of these are ministries of the US government. They've all asked their staff to ignore the mail from Musk. This is clear defiance. The matter reached the US president, and he has defended Elon Musk.
So by asking the question, tell us what you did this week, what he's doing is saying, are you actually working? And then if you don't answer, like you're sort of semi-fired or you're fired, because a lot of people are not answering because they don't even exist.
Well, this has not pacified Trump's cabinet. They don't want Musk to be so powerful that he overrules all of them. Interestingly, Musk will attend a cabinet meeting today, even though he's not a minister in the Trump government. Trump has sent him an invite, and journalists grilled the White House about this.
Is Elon Musk going to attend the president's first cabinet meeting tomorrow?
He is, as a matter of fact. I spoke to the president about that before coming down here as well.
Cabinet members were caught off guard by the email from
Nobody
Saturday.
was caught off guard.
A few departments said they were caught off guard. The FBI was, the DOJ was.
Did anonymous sources say that, or did the cabinet secretary say that?
The cabinet secretaries and others have said that they were not aware that this was happening. So I'm wondering, will there be a give and take tomorrow at the cabinet meeting?
I would reject the premise of your question, Jeff. The cabinet secretaries have not said that.
Legitimate questions, all of these. Musk has extraordinary powers in the government, even though he is not an elected official. Neither was he confirmed by the US Congress. You see, all ministers, or secretaries as they're called in America, are cleared by their parliament, the US Congress. Musk was not. He was not cleared by them. Because officially, Musk is not even running Doge. That's what the White House says, that Elon Musk is not in charge of Doge. But he keeps taking credit for all their work. In fact, he is expected to defend the actions of Doge at today's cabinet meeting. Both Musk and Trump have hailed Doge. They say this department has identified significant waste, fraud, and abuse. Trump even said that the money they save from Doge will be passed down to Americans.
There's even under consideration a new concept where we give 20% of the Doge savings to American citizens and 20% goes to paying down debt, because the numbers are incredible, Elon.
Doge is behind the firing of tens of thousands of employees. It claims to have saved billions in the process, but experts say the numbers do not add up. I'll give you some examples. Doge said it had saved nearly $900 million from the education department, that's America's education ministry. And how did they save this money? By terminating some 89 contracts. But the Doge website tells a different story. And this is their official website. It says that they saved $489 million, not 900 million, 489. Clearly, Musk and his team have been exaggerating. Earlier, they said that they terminated some 2,300 contracts. Again, quite an impressive number, but 40% of them will deliver zero savings. And this has become a pattern. Every time Doge makes a move or a big announcement, it makes headlines, simply because it gives massive numbers. But those numbers end up being wrong. Then they quietly edit the Doge website. In fact, they've deleted 5 of their biggest spending cuts already. And one particular case stands out. Doge said that it had killed an $8 billion contract, $8 billion. This was at the US Immigration and Customs Enforcement. But the actual contract was worth just $8 million. Similarly, the mass sackings have also raised questions. A few weeks back, 200 employees were sacked from the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, America's health regulator. Turns out the government was not even paying their salaries. Musk himself has admitted that Doge is prone to making errors.
First of all, some of the things that I say will be incorrect and should be corrected. So nobody's going to bat 1,000. I mean, we will make mistakes, but we'll act quickly to correct any mistakes.
Well, Elon Musk's problems go beyond factual inaccuracies. From civil servants to top officials, the resistance against Musk is growing. For now, President Trump continues to back him. But Trump is nothing if not transactional. And if Musk becomes a liability, he may lose the presidential support. The way things are going, multiple efforts are underway in Washington to keep Musk in check. Is Donald Trump sick? I know it's a weird question to ask just over a month into his presidency, but it's a question that is gaining traction. And it all started with an image. This one, it's doing the rounds on social media. The focus is on a pair of hands belonging to the US president himself. Zoom in and you will notice something unusual. There's a mysterious bruise on his right hand. It is large and it appears to be covered with makeup, perhaps an attempt to conceal it. But even with the cover-up, it is clearly visible. So what's going on here? The White House has an explanation. It says Trump is always working. He's shaking hands all day, every day. So this bruise is from that, from handshakes. I'll repeat that for you. Trump has apparently bruised himself from shaking hands. Was it because of a Macron-powered squeeze? We don't know, but the explanation is at best questionable. And this is not even the first time. Not the first time. He's had this bruise, in fact, for quite a few years. In 2019, he had a bandage on the same area. In 2020, the bruise was visible on his hand. In 2024, you can see it again on his hand, not in one picture, but in multiple photos. He had an interview with the Time magazine in 2024. Even they mentioned the bruise, and Trump offered a similar explanation. He said, it is from shaking hands. But the internet is not buying this. Social media has its own theories. One of them is blood thinners. Netizens believe that thinners lead to such a bruise. The other theory is aging. Donald Trump is 78 years old. He's the oldest person to be inaugurated as US president, even older than Joe Biden in 2021. Biden's presidency was marked by frequent stumbles, both verbal and physical. Donald Trump is, of course, better, but he too has had his fair share of gaffes.
And I watch our police and our firemen down at 7-Eleven, down at the World Trade Center, right after it came down. And I saw the greatest people I've ever seen in action. As many as you have no idea what I did in the White House. I stopped wars with France. You know, I was very honored as a man. Viktor Orban, did anyone ever hear of him? He's probably like one of the strongest leaders anywhere in the world. And he's the leader of, right? He's the leader of Turkey. Front. But we're close to World War II because we have people in the White House that World War III. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Doesn't inspire much confidence. It also doesn't make the age problem go away. And to top that, there are two more issues. One, Trump loves his fast food. His meals include McDonald's, KFC, pizza, and well-done steaks. He also consumes 12 Diet Cokes a day. His favorite snack is Doritos. So this is not really the healthiest of diets. The second problem is Trump's medical history. He first released his medical records in 2015, just ahead of the 2016 election campaign. Then in 2018, he underwent his first medical examination as US president. This was during his first term. He weighed around 240 pounds. His cholesterol levels were quite high. He also had a common form of heart disease. In 2020, his cholesterol levels dropped, but his weight increased to 243 pounds. That made him medically obese. Trump's family also has a history of dementia. His father had it, so that also increases the risk of Alzheimer's. Since 2020, Trump has not released his medical records. He said he will do it in 2024, but he did not. So his recent medical history is truly a mystery, which brings us to the elephant in the room. The age question. When Trump leaves office, he'll be 82. Americans want younger leaders, they say. Last year, 51% said that Trump was too old to run, yet both parties kept picking candidates from the same generation. Joe Biden for the Democrats until the longest time, and Donald Trump for the Republicans. It's beginning to feel like a requirement. To be president, you must be old enough to have watched the moon landing live. But here's the bigger question. Why is a world leader's health such a mystery? Why does it take internet sleuths to notice bruises or stumbles? These leaders shape the world economy. They command militaries. They influence global policies. And yet when it comes to their health, transparency is often lacking. Remember US President Franklin D. Roosevelt. He was in a wheelchair. It was rarely photographed. John F. Kennedy had Addison's disease, but the public never knew during his presidency. ordinary citizens are required to disclose their medical records for jobs, shouldn't the people who run countries have to do the same? Shouldn't their health be public knowledge too? So transparency is the need of the hour. Citizens have a right to know. After all, they were the ones who elected these leaders. Our next story is about Canada. The frigid nation might be sweating buckets right now because a new report says they are in trouble again, courtesy Donald Trump and his team. You already know that Trump does not think much of Canada. He has regularly said that it should become the 51st American state. But the latest threat is different. It strikes at the heart of the US-Canada alliance. It targets their joint security and intelligence network, the Five Eyes group. This is a grouping of 5 English-speaking countries: the US, the UK, Australia, New Zealand and Canada. These are the so-called Five Eyes. It's an alliance with roots in World War II. These 5 countries share intelligence like satellite surveillance, intercepted calls, even reports from their spies on the ground. It's close to a no-limits intelligence partnership. Almost all the data they gather is for all of them to see. Hence the name Five Eyes. But reports say that Trump, or a Trump official at least, wants to poke an eye out, specifically Canada. The official in question is Peter Navarro. He is officially a counselor to the President of the United States. That is Navarro's designation. He provides counsel on trade and manufacturing. But that's not the only reason Trump keeps him around. Peter Navarro is also an ardent Trump loyalist. He was part of the first Trump administration. Later, he even went to jail for Donald Trump. So you can see how loyal he is. And this means he definitely has the president's ear. And apparently, he's been saying things against Canada. He's accused of wanting, in fact, to push Canada out of the Five Eyes. Peter Navarro has denied this, though, and quite vehemently so.
That was just crazy stuff. We would never, ever jeopardize our national security. Ever. With allies like Canada, ever.
A very forceful denial there, but the report accusing him of this has not been retracted. The publication stands by the story, and this isn't the first time this rumor has appeared. The rumor about the US planning to kick Canada out of the Five Eyes. It was reported a few weeks ago as well, but it was considered a long shot then. Now we can't be so sure because the US could decide that Canada is expendable. And there's reason for this. There may be 5 eyes, but not all of them contribute to security equally. The bulk of intelligence gathering is done by the United States. They have the most resources, so they take on the lion's share. Then come Australia and the UK. Both have resources and they are at strategic locations. Australia is near China. Britain is in Western Europe. So they're next to the proverbial food chain. Then you have New Zealand and Canada at the end. This imbalance has always existed, and the alliance has been worried about this for a while, especially since Trump returned to power. Canada is in a real bind. It specializes in information from the Arctic. Now that is definitely important, more so when we consider the growing interest in the region from Russia and China. But is Canadian intelligence really the solution to that? Here in India, we do not think highly of Canadian intelligence. They keep spouting dodgy accusations, which they aren't able to back with evidence. Imagine if they do that with the Five Eyes as well. So is Canada's contribution really irreplaceable? This question might be haunting Ottawa right about now. Now again, Navarro has denied the report. He claims the US would never oust Canada. But should we believe that? After all, we never thought the US would want to annex Canada either. But here we are, with Trump regularly talking about taking it over, making it the 51st American state. So is firing Canada from the Five Eyes really off the table? It's time for the biggest sale of the season, and no, it's not the Black Friday sale or even the Cyber Monday sale. It's a golden sale of American citizenship. Donald Trump has introduced a new gold card. It allows foreigners to live and work in the US for $5 million. It also creates a path for citizenship. Basically, America is officially open for business if you've got $5 million lying around. You too can own a little slice of the red, white and blue. So will this gold card revolutionize immigration? Or will the American dream turn into an ultra-exclusive VIP lounge? Our next report tells you.
Donald Trump loves selling. He can turn anything into a sellable product, whether it's real estate, merch, golden sneakers, and even perfumes, marketed using the photo of his opponent's wife. If there's a market, Trump will find a way to cash in. And now, he's using his presidency to sell something even bigger: U.S. citizenship.
We're going to be doing something else that's going to be very good. We're going to be selling a gold card. You have a green card. This is a gold card. We're going to be putting a price on that card of about $5 million, and that's going to give you green card privileges plus. It's going to be a route to citizenship, and wealthy people will be coming into our country by buying this card. They'll be wealthy.
It's called the Gold Card, and the concept is very simple. Wealthy foreigners will pay $5 million. Then they can live and work in the United States, and it creates a pathway for citizenship. Basically, America is now officially for sale, at least to those who can afford the entry fee. Now, the US already has a similar program. It's called the EB-5 Immigrant Investor Visa Program, created by the US Congress in the year 1992. It grants green cards to immigrants for making investments. The requirements are $1.05 million in general or $800,000 in economically distressed zones. That way, America gets the investments, and it allows the country to create jobs for immigrants. Trump's business and those linked to his family, in fact, have made use of this program in the past. In his first term, Trump even tried to raise the minimum investment requirement for the EB-5, but a federal judge struck it down. So now, rather than tweak an old policy, Trump has decided to go full-scale luxury. Citizenship, but make it premium. So, who gets this gold card? Trump says millions could get it. Saudi princes? Yes. Chinese tycoons? Yes. And Russian oligarchs? That too is a yes from Trump's side.
Would a Russian oligarch be eligible for a gold card?
Yeah, possibly. Hey, I know some Russian oligarchs that are very nice people. It's possible. They're not quite as wealthy as they used to be. They're not as wealthy as they used to be. I think they can afford. I think they can afford $5 million.
So
no, a lot of people are going to want to. A lot of people are going to want to be in this country, and they'll be able to work and provide jobs and build companies and pay taxes.
But there are some questions, both economic and logistical. Will existing immigration quotas still apply? What will the vetting process look like? Will current green card applicants feel shortchanged? The Trump administration says that the rollout could begin in 2 weeks, so it's likely that the devil will be in the details.
As an example, 1 million cards would be worth $5 trillion. $5 trillion.
Wow.
And if you sell 10 million of the cards, that's a total of $50 trillion. Well, we have $35 trillion in debt. That'd be nice, so we'll see. But it could be great. Maybe it will be fantastic. We have it all worked out from the legal standpoint. It's totally legal to do. Hasn't been done before. It's been done in many different forms.
Either way, this gold card is the perfect evolution of Trump's brand. It's flashy, it's exclusive, and it comes with a price tag designed to make headlines. Will it revolutionize U.S. immigration, or just turn citizenship into a luxury product? One thing is certain: the golden age of American immigration just got a whole lot more literal.
Taiwan is facing fresh threats from China. Beijing has found a new weakness that it can exploit. After building pressure by air and sea, China is targeting an important lifeline of Taipei, the undersea cables, the cables that connect Taiwan to the world. These cables carry vital communications and China is trying to cut them. Yesterday, Taiwan's Coast Guard detained a cargo ship. The ship is registered under a Togolese flag, so its actual ownership is unclear. It had 8 crew members, all of them are Chinese, and Taiwan has detained all of them. The first alert came on Tuesday morning from a telecom company in Taiwan. It said a communication cable in the Taiwan Strait had been damaged. And Taiwan suspects China's involvement. It has been monitoring the cables and this cargo ship. Taiwan found it to be engaging in suspicious activities. 4 days ago, the ship was spotted near the cable. It had stopped nearby. Then on Tuesday, it dropped anchor. About an hour later, the cable was damaged. Taiwan's Coast Guard responded quickly. First, they tried to contact the Chinese crew by speaker and radio, but the ship did not respond. So left with no choice, the Taiwanese intercepted the vessel. And how has China reacted? They started by dismissing Taiwan's claims.
There are over 100 incidents of submarine optical cables incurring damage that happen around the world every year, which is a common maritime accident. While the basic facts and the people responsible for the accident have not yet been clarified, the Democratic Progressive Party authorities have deliberately exaggerated the situation in an attempt at political manipulation, which will not enjoy popular support.
For Taiwan, this is a very serious issue. They've drawn up a list of suspicious ships with 50 names on it, 50. Taiwanese authorities are keeping a close eye on them for 2 reasons. 1, the true ownership of these ships remains a mystery. And 2, the ships linger around Taiwan for long periods of time. This is a new security threat for Taiwan. There is no other way to see this. China is targeting its weak spots. These undersea cables are critical for Taiwan. They are strategic assets. The island's economy depends on them. So does its military. If China invades, Taiwan's military would need these cables to send important communication out and to stay connected with its allies. So if China cuts these cables, Taiwan could go dark. And this is not the first time a cable has been damaged. Last month, there was a similar incident. A cable was cut. Taiwan launched an investigation into the Shunxing 39, a Chinese-owned ship registered in Cameroon. Taiwan tried to stop this ship and investigate it, but due to bad weather, they could not board it. The Chinese ship managed to escape. It ended up sailing to South Korea. And now there are more ships in Taiwan's vicinity, raising the security threat. Plus, Taiwan is taking lessons from Europe, from the war in Ukraine. We've seen in the last 3 years that undersea cables are sitting ducks. They are vulnerable. European cables have come under frequent attacks recently. Since October 2023, at least 11 Baltic cables have been damaged. And just like Taiwan, Europe has struggled to protect these cables. It has often accused Russia of sabotage, but in most cases, it could not back up the charge with evidence. Also, some officials dismiss the sabotage angle altogether. They say the cables were damaged by accident. Although NATO has not ignored the threat, it is not ignoring the threat. It has launched a new mission to protect the Baltic cables. But recent events have cast doubt on the future of such operations. US President Donald Trump is testing both Europe and NATO. He is reshaping American foreign policy and shifting closer to Russia. This has left NATO's future uncertain. And Taiwan would be watching all of this closely. Remember, just like Ukraine, Taiwan needs US support to defend itself. And the US has committed to defending Taiwan if China attacks. Officially, America's policy is that of strategic ambiguity. It supplies Taiwan with weapons, but remains vague on whether it will send troops in the event of a war. Now, with Trump in office, there's even more ambiguity, or clarity, depends on how you see it. Clarity because Trump likes to put a price tag on everything. After Ukraine, his next move could be on Taiwan. It could become the target of Trump's transactional diplomacy. In fact, speculation is already rife in Washington. There is talk of tariffs on Taiwan. The only way to avoid them may be concessions. Reports say Trump could demand a major stake in TSMC. That's the world's largest maker of semiconductors. It's a Taiwanese company. Trump could ask for an American stake or American ownership. Needless to say, such a scenario would help China. At this point, this is all speculation and reports, but the way things have shaped up in the last few weeks, Taiwan would do well to be on its guard. Now let's talk about Air India. Once upon a time, it was renowned for its service, but those days are long gone. Now the former state-owned national carrier is the airline that Indians love complaining about. From broken chairs to poor service, seat downgrades, tardiness, you name it, and Air India probably has that problem. And now an Indian politician wants to award it the Oscar for the worst airlines. So what's behind Air India's persistent woes? Here's a report.
If there was an Oscar equivalent for the worst airlines, Air India would win hands down in every category. Broken seats, the worst staff, pathetic on-ground support staff, and poor customer service. We aren't saying this. These scathing remarks come from an Indian politician, Bharatiya Janata Party leader Jaiveer Shergill. He has blasted the Indian air heavyweight, Air India, with a post on X, formerly known as Twitter. This comes days after Union Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan posted about his Air India woes on the same platform. He talked about being allotted a broken seat that sunk in on a flight, calling it immoral on Air India's part, and a betrayal of passenger trust. In both these instances, the airline has apologized for the inconvenience within hours. The Union Aviation Minister claims to have spoken to Air India, demanding necessary action. Meanwhile, the Directorate General of Civil Aviation, or DGCA, has called a meeting with the carrier. The Indian regulator has learned that Air India's seat was not broken, but the airline uses lean cushions to keep the aircraft weight low, which can make the seat feel sunken. So the DGCA has asked Air India to ensure passenger comfort. But this is hardly the end of the saga. The political row has stirred a debate in India. Hundreds of customers are firing off concerns on social media, labeling the airline as pathetic, talking about paying for a business class ticket but being allotted a seat in the economy section, and claiming that the situation was better before the disinvestment. You see, the Tatars started Air India in the year 1932. In 1953, the government took over. Air India became the country's flagship carrier. It was touted as one of the best airlines globally, renowned for its service. But soon, it came to be seen as a cautionary tale of decline. It racked up billions of dollars in losses. It struggled to compete. It gained a reputation for tardiness. Its services took a hit, and the name suffered. So the state carrier was returned to the Tatars. They bought it from the government in the year 2022. And the Tata Group's comeback raised people's hopes. While nobody expected miracles within such a short period of time, the progress has been painfully slow. The airline has gone through extensive rebranding. It has merged with Tata's crowd puller, Vistara. They promised cabin modernization, changes in customer service, and a fleet upgrade. The group has spent billions of dollars investing in hundreds of new aircraft, some of which will join the fleet by mid-2025. Now, Air India is operating a fleet of more than 200 planes, serving more than 60 million customers annually, connecting them to over 100 destinations the world over, and finally reducing its losses. In the last fiscal year, Air India's losses fell by 60%. Like we said, there is progress, but the customer experience on the ground and up in the air often disagrees. Customers complain of frequent downgrades. Last month, a passenger complained of being downgraded from business class to economy, along with his 4-year-old son, and the seats being reassigned to airline crew. This month, a member of parliament posted on X, talking about her downgrade without intimation. Every time Air India downgrades its passengers, it pays the price with its reputation. The loyalty points take a further hit with regular delays, which seem to be a persistent problem, because Air India's punctuality continues to be in the pits. So, whether you look at timeliness, seating, or staff, it's clear that the new Air India has not gotten off to a flying start. It's time that its management realizes that the runway to recovery takes a lot more than throwing money at the problem.
The US is on a mission to cut foreign aid. President Donald Trump believes it's unnecessary and that aid is wasteful public spending. So far, he has cut key humanitarian operations abroad like vaccination drives, public health campaigns and food programs. But guess who is still getting American money? Pakistan. Trump has cleared a military aid package for Pakistan, a package worth almost $400 million. And what's it for? To sustain Pakistan's F-16 fighter jets. They operate around 85 of these American planes, F-16s. So the US is paying for their upkeep, for things like repair, maintenance and monitoring. Now, this is not unprecedented. Joe Biden also cleared a similar package for Pakistan way back in 2022. It was worth around $450 million. Back then, the US tried to justify it. They said the money was for fighting terrorism, that it would not change the military balance in South Asia. This was supposed to pacify India. But New Delhi criticized the move anyway, which brings us to Trump's aid. This is different for a couple of reasons. One, Trump actually banned military aid to Pakistan in his first term. He accused them of playing a double game on terrorism. Listen to this.
We have been paying Pakistan billions and billions of dollars. At the same time, they are housing the very terrorists that we are fighting. But that will have to change, and that will change immediately.
This was Trump in his first term. He cancelled aid to Pakistan in 2018, but he cleared it in 2025 in his second term. It's clearly a U-turn. But does it also signal a larger change in policy? That is the question. Secondly, it's a commitment to Islamabad. After taking office, Trump paused all foreign aid programs, both military and humanitarian ones. He froze them all for 90 days. But some programs were given a waiver. In total, around 243 exceptions were made. These programs received around $5.3 billion. Out of this, $397 million went to Pakistan. $397 million. Now look at the other exceptions. Israel and Egypt. Those are long-time allies of the US, so they continued to get military aid packages, and Pakistan was counted among them. Like I said, it is a show of commitment. But what does it mean for India? Technically, Pakistan can only use the F-16 against terrorists. They cannot be deployed against India. But the rule is not set in stone. In fact, in 2019, Pakistan did use the F-16 against India. You may remember it during the Balakot airstrike. One F-16 was actually shot down by India. So this aid package does have a direct impact on us. Plus, it creates confusion. Because Trump's Pakistan policy is all over the place. He is not consistent on military aid. He has tried to mediate on Kashmir. He is blown hot and cold with Pakistan's regime. Look at the last few months. Trump appointed pro-India officials to his cabinet. His allies also openly called for Imran Khan's release from jail. Yet he is giving military aid to Pakistan. You can see why it's confusing for India. What will be interesting is New Delhi's reaction. When Biden approved military aid in 2022, India lashed out. Listen to Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar.
Because at the end of the day, for someone to say, I'm doing this because it is for counter-terrorism, when you are talking of an aircraft like the capability of the F-16, everybody knows, where they are deployed and what is the use and what is their capability. So, you're not fooling anybody by saying these things.
Let's see if there's a similar reaction this time, especially with Trump in the White House. As for Pakistan, this is nothing new for them. They have been fooling the Americans for decades now. No matter what they do, Washington forgives. Double game on terror? No problem. Covertly backing the Taliban? Not an issue. Buying weapons and fighter jets from China? Again, no issue. Islamabad is getting the best of both the worlds. Trump is paying them $400 million to maintain American F-16 fighter jets. Meanwhile, Xi Jinping could be selling them his fighter jets. around 40 of them, the fifth generation J-35 planes. And this should worry India, because it looks like Trump is playing both sides. He hosted Prime Minister Modi at the White House earlier this month, and he offered to sell India F-35 jets. Yet days later, he is sending military aid to Pakistan. This mixed messaging is a wake-up call for New Delhi. Let's see how the government responds. And now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. The world's largest gathering, the Mahakumbh, ends with a holy dip on Shivratri. Thousands line the streets in Israel for the funeral procession of the Bibas family, and a surveillance video shows thieves stealing a golden toilet from a British palace. Finally, we're taking you back in history. On this day in 1993, the World Trade Center was bombed. The bomb exploded in the parking garage, killing 6 people and injuring more than 1,000. We're leaving you on that note. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
sorry.
Good evening, this is Brass Tacks. I'm Zakir Jacob. We're starting off with a piece of breaking news that has significant ramifications for India as well as for Pakistan. A US Republican congressman, a House of Representatives, Joe Wilson, has drafted a Pakistan democracy bill which he seeks to bring before the US House of Representatives. The bill basically sets down that it is US policy to restore democracy in Pakistan. Significantly, what this bill also proposes to do is mandate a 30-day determination of sanctions to be imposed on Pakistan Army Chief General Asim Munir. It also says that other Pakistani generals and their families could be deterred from coming into the United States. Their visas could be impounded and they can be stopped from coming into the United States because they played a part in setting back the democratic process in Pakistan. Representative Wilson's bill also says that freeing Imran Khan would be a major step towards strengthening US-Pakistan relations. Of course, this bill will be brought to the floor of the US House soon. Whether or not it'll pass, we'll have to wait and see. Today is Mahashivratri and the 1.5 month long Mahakumbh in Prayagraj gets over tonight. At last count, over 65 crore devotees had taken the holy dip at the Sangam Ghat. Now, these millions, they have flocked to one of the holiest places in Hinduism, not because the Prime Minister asked them to or the UP Chief Minister asked them to. They did so because of their astha or their belief. But politics is not far away. Mamata Banerjee and Akhilesh Yadav have belittled the efforts of the state administration. They point to the two major tragedies that have happened over the last month. The stampede that first happened on Mauni Amavasya on the 29th of January, one of the holiest days, where 30 people were killed. And then, of course, there was the stampede at the New Delhi railway station that happened earlier this month. Of course, these are terrible human tragedies and accountability needs to be fixed for those. But are they taking away from the larger picture, which is that this was the largest congregation of humanity at one given place over a month-and-a-half period at any point of time in recent history? So, should we keep the big picture in mind? Or are opposition politicians just politicizing these two tragedies and saying and belittling in many ways the astha or the belief of these 65 crore Indians who took the holy dip? So the culmination of this 45-day Mahakumbh, it's historic in many aspects. Like I said, at last count, it was a little over 66 crore devotees who took the holy dip at the Mahakumbh. It makes it the largest congregation of humanity at any given point of time in recent history. It has exceeded the state's expectations. In fact, before the Kumbh began in mid-January, the UP government had estimated about 45 crore people to turn up and take the holy dip. 1.4 crore people took the holy dip on the occasion of Shivratri. That's the figures that we have till 6 p.m. That number will further go up. In fact, 15,000 sanitation workers were on the ground throughout this period to try and make the Kumbh a better experience for devotees. 1.2 million temporary